Welcome to the replay of the World SK 2022 Round Robin Tournament. The winner of the 2022 tournament was Dmitry Klyukov. Leaderboard dominance on the ASL archive. Brick and mortar game store owner. Master trainer of a dozen brilliant SK players. Feared by all opponents. Even the dice spot dare not cross him. His valiant opponents on his road to victory. Round number 1, Mark Dennehy, master of SK rules, veteran of hundreds of SK battles versus similar numbers of opponents. The backbone of Tactical Tuesday, undaunted by the opposition. Round 2, Dimitri meets Steve Borrow, quiet tactician, master of battlefield deception, refuses any rolls less than 5 and he re-rolls them. Never to be taken lightly. The Brits will cower before he does. Jack Wilson, round 3. Hell, with a name like Jack, you are in trouble if you cross his path. Resurging from ASL purgatory, overcoming past evils to re-enter the ASL SK world. Total wild card. Complete unknown, perhaps Dimitri's most feared adversary. Let's join in the battles, gentlemen. We're going to replay and go over the SK games that Dimitri had to overcome from these valiant opponents over the weekend in the World SK 2022. Round 1, S12 over open sights. Dimitri is playing Mark Dennehy in this game. And if you guys are unfamiliar over open sights, for the most part, you've got 3 giant American guns, 16 plus firepower when they hit you. Almost very improbable to move. The artillery piece is almost impossible to move due to its size. The artillery pieces could be moved with some help. But do you want to do that in this scenario? You never know when it might come out. Dimitri's setup is pretty much all-inclusive right here. The Germans can pretty much come on both sides and the top. And the Americans will have reinforcements come on the bottom. So Dimitri has a number of units on the left-hand side. He has a squad and a half. And the leader here. Squad and a half in the middle with a leader. And 2 covering half squads over here, probably just so the Germans don't get free reign of those key positions. They're within normal range, as you can tell. 1, 2, 3, 4 hexes of most of the Germans, and therefore you want to try and keep them out of range as much as possible. Minimize their firepower because the defense of all these artillery pieces are going to be +2 because they're emplaced. Sure, they could charge the stone building here, but the half squads with their minimal 2 firepower, with a -2, 7's all you really need for morale check, and 8's a pin task check. So that's something you have to look forward to. Plus the 8 -1, the mortar. Mortar's in good position. Both these weapons, long range, good position to cover both ends. Pretty much quote both ends of the court. You got a mortar here that could probably see units in this location, and then could see the entire way down here and has the entire breadth of this board. So pretty much both weapons have the same field of fire. Very far and encompassing. So we'll see with Mark's strategy. He has a number of units over here on the left-hand side. Let's zoom in a little bit. He's got the mortar, 3 4.47s. You might say, hey, Stu, why has he got the mortar over there? He's really not going to be able to pull those against the artillery piece. Well, I may have been thinking the same thing, but it's only got a range of 13. So if he brings the mortar on the right-hand side over here, these guys over here are probably going to be out of range, right? If let's say he puts the mortar in one of these locations, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. That's it. That mortar only has a range of 13, so there's no point in bringing it over on this side. You're really not going to do anything, and the the American mortars, that's a 45 range. So he's gonna out firepower you, and he's gonna out damage you. So over here, everything on this side is within 13 range. You know, a lot of units, almost more than half the American infantry over here, and two of the strongest pieces that the Americans have are going to be in the woods. So if you get that mortar going, you can blow those guys up in the woods, which in turn relieves a lot of pressure from over here from these guys. And guess what? You don't have to be shot by the artillery pieces that we have here. None of those guys can fire on you because you've got this great wall of woods that's going to defend your mortar that's on this side. So his artillery can't even come to bear. So it's mano-a-mano on that left-hand side. It's just a matter of getting it going for gameplay. So let's go ahead and get this one started. Again, mortars over here, and the rest of them, I think, are just infantry, medium machine guns, light machine gun. I think just light machine guns. So all the other bad boys are going up top. Oh, I think the medium's over here. Yeah, there's the medium over here. Sort of like 4 or 5 squads per edge, for the most part. So, typical advance to the woods. You're probably going to see some sort of advance like this, some sort of advance like this, and then making their way to the artillery pieces. So that's what looks like the basic setup is here, as well as the units over here. This could be just a tie them down. I mean, he's got 3.5 squads. Tie these guys down so they can't reinforce the artillery pieces. You know, that's like a delaying tactic, like a sort of like a flanking maneuver. So let's go ahead and step through this one real quick then. And you see Mark gets exposed to some fire. Let me flip this on this side for now. I think he's just assault moving on the board. Let me flip it back. Come over here. He's leaving his leader off because he doesn't want to get shot again. Leave the leader off and just advance them on. Smart thing to do. Simply because the leader's not going to do anything when he comes on the board. The only thing he's going to do is break. The only thing he's going to do is break. So, Germans coming on this side. Again, this is the only thing that can help us over here. I remember when Mark got shot by this. A heck of a shot. Like a 2 or 3 morale check or something like that. Yeah, 3 morale check. Mark rolls off of 4 and just gets pinned by it. Really incredible resilience on the Germans. So you notice that shot is right down the lane. I don't need this. I'm not sure why I need that. So right straight down the fire lane, and that gun's a straight shot into the woods location. Leaves a big 8 residual. That's pretty potent. That's pretty disastrous. So again, only pin, not a bad deal. All the Germans run around. Great deal. They're all German. Again, free movement. He holds his fire here, probably waiting for the leader. And Mark moves the leader outside the range, of course. And so he only has a 2 even shot on these guys here, and nothing happens. The guns rotate in their defensive fire phase for free rotation. We've got some advances, close combat. Again, aggressive, jumping at close combat. Get rid of units. I think that was an exchange. I think it was a decent exchange. Nobody's in front of you anymore. And here come the guns. Some mortars firing on the mortar fire on the left-hand side. The guns are firing and acquiring over here. Trying to get into position. Let me back this up just a little bit so we can pretty much see the entire map. It's pretty tight, so let's leave it right here for the game. So German turn 2, we've got a couple rallies. As you see, it gets very difficult to rally over here when you can't get your units out of the DM zone. The mortar was broken initially, and the half squad is just kind of like dangling on the edge of destruction over there. He doesn't have to route, and he doesn't get DM'd because these units only have 4 range. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the range stops about right here. And so this unit will not automatically be DM'd, even though he's in open ground. And he's not in open ground compared to these guys because you've got the hindrance right there. So good spot to be, good spot to route. He just needs to roll low. I'm not sure how you can get a leader over there. It's going to be tough. Going to be tough. Continue on with the German turn. I think it's just general movement, not a lot of fire. Guns are pivoting again. Most of the German forces over here, look at every single gun is pivoted this direction. If these guys on the left can get through, that could be one heck of a help. Would relieve a lot of pressure on this side. We got some morale checks going on. Some final fires on the left-hand side, DMing guys, and advancing. These guns are popping here. Now look what we have here. We're not firing to hit. We've got white phosphorus rounds here. So we smoked them there. They automatically take a morale check for being under white phosphorus, albeit they get a +1 from the terrain. But these guys firing out are pretty much neutralized. You know, if this guy were even in normal range, that'd be 4 +5 because you got +2 for the emplacement, and +1 for being in the smoke. So it's a +5 attack. Even if you had 30 firepower, that's still a 30 +5. So for all intents and purposes, these units were neutralized, and the units that have to fire through the white phosphorus at them are also neutralized. Makes it very difficult. So Mark needs to try to overcome that smoke, bypass it somehow, go around it. But otherwise, you know, try to deal with it. And some of these guys have no white phosphorus. I think 2 of them did. So they're just all prep firing. Simple routes. German turn 3. Let's bypass the smoke, get around it. And then we've got fire and first fire on this left-hand side over here. I'm going to leave it like this because now all the guys are on board. We did make it to the building, but unfortunately Mark's units got broken. Germans are advancing up. Lots of targets to give the Americans. Hopefully they won't get ready to fire. Again, we got another white phosphorus to smoke this guy. We fired regular smoke over here. Very effective. It does provide the Germans defense, but, you know, for the most part, they still have to cover the open ground anyway. So at least the Germans don't get the long-range free shots of 2 firepower. That's what Dimitri's taken away from them. There's lots of smoke there, too. And that smoke, the initial white phosphorus should be gone in the next player turn here. Germans move up again, or kind of skulk back a little bit to recover, and then advance forward. And the Americans set up, you see here the bottom right, Americans set up all the reinforcements, 3 squads, 7-0 leader to come flank him to put as much pressure on there as well. So instead of just bringing them back in the woods in the middle, just to sit there and fire through hindrances here, which really isn't going to do anything, you shove them in here, maybe delays even more of the Germans to get there. So we'll see how that works out. Left-hand side looks like Mark's units are making a play for it. I think one guy just got smoked from a snake eyes, unfortunately. Defensive fire. All the Americans are jumping into close combat over here, as you can see. Pretty dangerous stuff. The Americans, again, 5 firepower. They're getting rid of their defensive disadvantage of 6 morale by jumping into close combat with these 7 morale units. They have the advantage because they have 5 firepower over 4. So the best thing to do is smoke them. Now the 5-4-6s can advance upon them easily, and they can engage them in close combat and have the advantage. So total advantage to the Germans or the Americans at this specific location. And again, that other smoke, the white phosphorus is gone. In the prep fire phase, we've got a couple units rally, and now Mark at turn 5 says it's time to play ball, and he's got to charge units forward. Amazingly enough, one of these guns does crit one of these German units. This bad boy right here gets crit, and I think Mark makes like a 3 morale check or something like that. Ridiculous. 12 residual firepower is just stupid in an SK game. Anyway, Boston kick ass. Try and take names. Again, the guys on the left-hand side, not much left over there. We've got, I think the 5.36 broke. 4.47 is trying to make a play on the 2.36. Germans trying to push on the right-hand side. Engage one of these guns. Two guns are malfunction, which is so huge for the Germans. They don't get pounded by these guys all game long. Don't know if they have enough forces to take it, but what we have here is we have a decent chance of getting in there and getting dirty. Same thing over here. We got a melee, a Bruin, right? We got a unit here trying to flank. He got broken. Melee Bruin here. I may have picked up the mortar and tried to use the mortar, but this is what Mark went through. And hopefully we could see some victories, some pressure coming on the left-hand side. Germans jumping to melee. We got half squads abandoning. Oh, the mortar, I think, mouthed and then was destroyed in a repair attempt. Because here's the 2.36 that had the mortar before. Now we've got these units just going forward, trying to make their play. Again, this is it's only going to be 2 more German turns, and they have to possess or destroy those guns, which means they need to be in those locations in turn 7, or at least destroy those units and obtain those weapons. More smoke is dissipating. Guys are breaking. Let's move this over here. That way we can see all the action. 237, they exchange units there. 546, probably was eliminated, looks like. So those units were gone. Finally breaks through over there, but pretty much that's it for that area. Central area, again, the 236 still holding on to that stone building. 237's coming up the back tail end over here from the left-hand side. Good strong push. We've got 3 units that could try to make a push. I mean, this is really tight. I mean, this is really super tight at this part of the game. And you've got another 467 here. And 7-0 trying to make a run for it. And unfortunately, they kind of take some casualties. Good dice rolls in a break. That ends the log file. At this point, I don't think Mark thinks that he could take it. There's a lot of units were still in play. And he'd have to actually kill him like in prep fire, this unit here. In the defensive fire or prep fire. And then go from that point. But yeah, very close. Smoke used early. It looked like to be the key. Smoke here stopped any sort of fire group to appear. Smoke down here, I think, was the game deciding factor. Simply because it allowed the Americans to come on. Dimitri's Americans to come on and jump these 2 or 3 squads right in here, which depleted the forces that eventually ended up going this way. So I think the 5.46 is coming on here in conjunction with the smoke being dropped on them, was the key critical factor of this game. So we actually have a 5.46 still alive. So exciting fight down here. This, I think, was the crux of the entire situation. Early smoke, and then smoke over here as well. So, again, good hard try by Mark. Just happened to end up short. Couple crits, big boy guns shooting hard and fast. And yeah, that's round number 1, Dimitri's first win. And then we're going on to round number 2. All right, round number 2, the World SK Open 2022. We have Off to Oslo, S83. This looks to be kind of like an interesting scenario. I think you guys can play this one pretty quickly. Low density units for the most part. Pretty simple VC in terms of obtaining checkpoints. The VC in this one are provided they control all buildings on board M, which is the bottom building here. So we have 3 buildings on board M, which essentially secures the airfield, which is the only overlay in SK. Pretty cool overlay here. Lots of open ground, but we're going to get into that in a second. Provided the Germans have this, the Germans win immediately when both checkpoints are eliminated. These roadblocks are considered checkpoints. They have SSRs over here. The checkpoint is an LOS obstacle. And as a +1 TEM, it costs 2 movement factors to enter. Checkpoints can be eliminated by one of 2 ways. A DC placed on the checkpoint with a 2 morale check result will blow it to hell. And a multi-man counter declares the intent to eliminate the checkpoint and spends its entire movement phase on the checkpoint without being pinned or broken for the most part. It has to be in good order. Will eliminate the roadblock. So kind of easy to eliminate them. So the key is to get to those roadblocks and destroy them easy. So here's Steve's setup with what the setup for the Germans is they have to set up on the runway, which kind of represents like glider troops coming in or airplane supplies. They land on the runway, they get off, they disembark, and then they start the fight right there. The Allied miners, who are they? The Polish, this one? Norwegians. Oslo, yeah, no kidding. Norwegians can set up anywhere on this board on the bottom, and these units come on turn 1 on the top edge. Pretty much these guys will probably try to obtain positions to get to the roadblocks, and we'll see what happens there. There's a couple LMGs in this little area here, guys here. Now, one thing I noticed, and this is, after the fact, of course, is there's a scenario special rule that states that during if the German unit sets up in a runway hex containing a Norwegian unit, a melee counter is placed on the stack, and all units therein are immediately in melee. So, who gives a crap, Stu? Well, let's take a look at something. Let's do some simple math. And I'd like to see one of you guys try this or see what happens or comes about. But let's do some simple math, guys. If the Germans, it doesn't say anything else but this. If the Germans set up on the runway in the same location of a Allied, essentially Norwegian unit, then they are both considered in melee. Melee. So if they're in melee, what are the Germans doing on turn 1? What can the Germans do on turn 1 if they're in melee on the runway? Nothing. Turn 1 is gone from the Germans. And I think that's what the key point of this one is the Germans are gone. And I think the runway is a -1 TEM scenario special rule. I don't know if it's a scenario special rule or just the action pack special rule. So if they're melee, they don't get to do anything for the first turn. Let's take a look what happens in the first turn, and then we'll come back to that concept. So first turn, Germans go first, so they get to fire first. So we know what happens with that. If they fire, they can't move. If they move, they can't fire. So we're going to have some prep fire, rip some of these units up. A couple good dice rolls. Doesn't hurt anybody. But Germans are charging forward. Charging these green units, full squads. You got 3, your whole front's DM'd, which is unfortunate. Some residual firepower. CXing and surrounding these units just to eliminate them. Rounding off to the side, rounding off to the back, advancing, putting super pressure on. Close combat, the Norwegians do annihilate that unit. Look at these dice rolls over here. These are stupidly sick. Anyway, some tremendous dice rolls. Just vaporize each one. This one here is still controlled by the Norwegians simply because the Germans died in the close combat and did not wrest the control from the Norwegians. They both died at the same time, so therefore the control is maintained under the Norwegians. So that one goes into a melee. This is what we're kind of looking at. Okay, let's pause it here. Where are the Germans right now? They're like 4 to 5 hexes up here. They might have potential shots on units that might be coming down. Not a lot of shots, but, something that's pressuring enough. Right? And you've got a broken unit here. Remember, we had 3 broken units straight up that pretty much didn't do anything. Right? So let's back that up and take a look at how many on that scenario special rule up here, if a German unit sets up in a runway hex, you probably can't see it. Let's zoom in. With a hex containing a Norwegian unit, a melee counter is put on stop the stack. All units are immediately in melee. So, say, hey, Stu, how do we take advantage of that? So how many hexes do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. How many Norwegian units do we have in the OB? Well, if you could go back, there was one here that was eliminated, one here that was eliminated, and then we have one here, broken leader. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So my premise is, I think the scenario is designed to have all of your units early. Well, you could put all of them on there. Every single one of the Norwegian units would have to be in the runway hex. And so therefore, since the German must begin the game on the runway hex, all the German units will be in melee de facto. So their entire first movement, their entire first turn is gone because they can't move. And guess what? If you're in melee, like we see here, even if it's a 2-to-1 like this, you know, if we had 3 broken allied units right in the beginning, if those 3 broken units had a chance to for a roll, let's say they were all 1-2 or even 1-4, that gives you 3s and 4s to possibly casualty reduce some units on the runway. And let's take the perfect example. Let's say the Allies won 1 or 2 close combats. So now you got a 2-2-7, maybe a 4-3-7. Again, whose turn is it at the end of the melee? It's going to be the Norwegians' turn. So now if those Norwegians win any close combats, then they can fire on the other German units that did win close combat because they're going to be stuck on the runway. And I think the runway TEM is -1. So they're going to have a 4-1, 2-2 at worst, assuming you're not adjacent. So you could actually break some German units and cause them, you know, low crawl, failure out, whatever. And I think you might be surprised by that. Set that up a couple of times, guys, and see what you come about. Again, it will delay the Germans getting to this position here and into the village because they have these reinforcements coming on over here, but they only have 5 squads or six squad equivalents. You know, they got some decent support weapons. I'm not complaining about this. They're decent support weapons, but our reinforcements up here, we got 5.5 squads in LMG. That's almost equivalent forces. You know, we don't have much range, but it's almost equivalent forces. So that would be interesting to see if that were to develop during an additional course of game. And I challenge you guys to play this one and maybe think of that strategy. You know, maybe not put all the guys there. Maybe put 1 or 2 guys back here that the Germans can't get to. And then you run your way back to the village. That's definitely potential. I mean, two 6 machine guns. Take both your machine guns since they're useless in close combat. Give them to the leaders, right? You know, and send them hightailing. They're 1 portage point. Give them to the leader. Put the leader here and here, and just send them running. Get back to here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we meet up with the green units. And now you have more leaders with more rally capabilities. So something to think about. I think it might be interesting. Lots of different strategies. So let's continue here. So we've got a good close combat. The Norwegians, quote, won one in X3. And let's see what happens with we got some units coming on, right? I think he's got to set these units up. Yep. Norwegians set up here. They pretty much just bust ass moving on. And these guys try to rally. He moves. We're just going to hold fast here and try and rally. German turn. He gets eliminated close combat. Controls those other buildings. Did he control this one? I don't know if he did or not. I like to think that he did. So we've got some CXing German units, large stack of guys here. You know, again, all these guys are green units. So double cower time if they roll doubles. Not good. So we've got a unit in here as well. And we got guys covering the roadblock. Not bad at all. Leader occupies the roadblock. Serious firepower. And we see some Germans. Oh, the Germans actually must come down on the airfield. They don't flank. They come on the airfield. They move forward. So second turn, the Dutch are definitely going to get overrun with the extra Germans down here. But they might have given them enough time because these Germans may not actually be up here if the close combat strategy were involved. So this would be turn 3. So essentially they would have 4 turns to take those things. Might be doable. But the big stack moves in the middle. We got some guys CXing all over the place because, again, the range of these guys is 4 and 6. Not so good. We got the 8-1 holding down the literally roadblock. Trying to blasting. He gets blasted, unfortunately, with the big snakes from Dimitri. Hard to recover from that. Big close combat over here. That guy's looking grim. He gets vaporized. 7-0 rallies the 437 on the right-hand side. Let's move that over a little bit. Great rally here. This is a very, very key rally. Press fire, try to break some of these units. There's a lot of Germans there. We still have a decent array of units in the village. You know, this is nothing to spit at. The Germans still have to jump onto the roadblock, still remain unpinned and good order to succeed in those VC. So they get close to the roadblock. They know where the Germans have to go. That's a big part of this one. Gets pinned. Other units pinned. Places the DC. Oh, it looks like a 12 in that DC. That's pretty stupid. You know, so the DC did nothing. Absolutely nothing to the roadblock. And it's going to be 5 and 6. So now, for the most part, he has to move on to that roadblock and not be DM'd or good or like not in good order, which in close combat would be not in good order, or pinned. So all he have to do is be pinned. All he has to do is stay pinned all day long. And we got a demo charge on the other one over there after that unit. And that demo charge apparently blows the hell up. So 1 VC there. We control the buildings in the bottom. Big melee over here. What turn are we looking at? Norwegian turn 4. It must be turn 5 because the Germans have been... No, Norwegian turn 4 rallies back. Final fire. This unit, the leader's pinned at least. And then the Germans go. TI in that turn. Can't do anything. And I think they try to prep him. The leader and squad do break. Turn 5. Oh my God, what's going on here? And then right here, all the allies are jumped into close combat. Pretty much the German just has to hold them in close combat, and that way this guy gets a free ride. And that's exactly what happened. They go into melee in the Norwegian turn. I don't know. I would have gone through the. I don't know if this is at the end of the Norwegian turn. This might have been the end of the German turn because the Germans all moved up and jumped in the melee. So the Norwegian turn, they still can kill this unit over here. Let's see. This would be. This unit could possibly win a close combat. This unit could possibly win a close combat. And if that happens, and that means they could prep fire on this unit or defensive fire in German turn 6 and possibly kill them. Maybe they rolled that out right at the end. No, they just did close combats. Maybe they did get killed. But very close one in this one, even though the Germans looked like they were overwhelming the entire time. Again, played out through turn 5. Essentially, only a half turn remains, 5 full turns. Not bad for a nice, quick, and dirty scenario. And again, about a third of the Norwegians are left over, so this looks like a pretty decent fight, considering the Germans have to cross open ground probably just, no smoke, no nothing. And they just have to wither those little 1 and 2 firepower shots and the 2 machine gun shots to get across that open area to get to their objectives. Pretty tough fight. Steve gave a tough defense. Norwegians are holding up pretty good. And we did maintain control of these locations on the bottom. He probably took that location with the 2nd Reinforcement Group. All right, so that's 2-0 in our round robin of 3 games in the World SK 2022. Let's go to round number 3. All right, here we are in round number 3. This is Kawaguchi's Gamble, in case you hadn't noticed it. So, victory conditions in this one, they don't have them. Oh, they do have them listed here. Here we go. The Japanese win at game end if there are no good order American multi-man counter on any level 1 hex. Also see SSR number 4, which means if they destroy, there's a gun that's hidden here also. If they destroy the gun or make sure it's unmanned or something like that, then the Americans could have 1 multi-man counter on top of the hill. The scenario special rules, or in the victory conditions as they are now, there has to be no good order American. Good order means not in melee. First thing you got to hear is broken or not in melee. And the Japanese are good at jumping you and getting you in melee. It may not last long, but that's what we're looking at here. So, the Japanese, I think, have 2 medium machine guns, 10 or so 4.47s. The Americans have a bunch of 5.58 Raider squads and non-Raider and Paramarines. I think they have a 10-2, 9-1, something like that. And they have an AA machine gun you see here on the right-hand side. It has an IFE of 8, which is pretty powerful. Rate of fire 2 with that IFE equivalency. So Japanese pretty much have to try and set up a decent bonsai attack to penetrate and defeat the American line, and therefore seek and destroy the gun to make their victory conditions a little easier, or just annihilate all the Americans. So let's fire this one along. Typical Japanese move, busting ass down the bottom, CXing. Other units on the top. I like this move up here simply because there's nothing that the Americans can see over here. Unfortunately, a couple of units gets pinned. Leader gets ripped and shredded, so that means no more bonsaiing for that. So everyone's pinned here. Advanced fire, no effect. We advance phase. America turns, prep fires. I think they skulk. These guys are taking some shots. We got a half squad already up there. Final fire over here, no effect. Japanese move again. Gets blasted point blank. Shredded. The other squad gets shredded. The last squad, CXs, comes up. No effect. We got another helper flanker over here. Gets pinned by another 5.58. So it's getting hot and heavy at the top. Guys on the bottom, they're just like, nah, there's nothing going on here. Nothing to see here. So we have a little probing defense. We got a massive stack right there. That is a massive stack. Maybe too many leaders in one spot. That's a lot of everything. And we do get that crew gone. It's either broken or dead. Forgot what happened. If you guys saw the action up there, you tell me what happened. So we got lots of squads up there. No leadership though. And a good way to penetrate and break through. Again, the gun is discovered. And now we have the ability to just keep only one of the Americans on top of the first level of this hill, this awkward looking hill. It's kind of cool, actually. And so therefore the victory conditions are slightly easier for the Japanese at this point in the game. Looks like these guys get shredded. They all get striped. We're doing the old Skulkerino. Jumping back in front, 10-2, bad boy right here in the middle. 9-2, this is getting sick. I'm vomiting here of all the just atrocities committed. Bullets are flying. Prepping. Guys not breaking whatsoever. The American line has been unscathed at this point. We see the crew. Oh, here's the crew. He must have routed. Came back. Now he's going to gun for some more. Gonna kick some more Japanese ass here in a minute. Jumps in close combat. Look at this. Oh, I thought he was fearless. He's just going up there and trying to recover. Recover the gun. Prep firing on him. No effect. Spins the gun. I think nothing there. I think he must have gacked it. 11 or 12. Maybe made a morale check. Japanese, again, down here. They need to get the job done. Skulkerino. When they start skulking like that, you have to take advantage and do something differently. One thing you could do is create pressure on the right-hand side. Scoot everybody up top. Because these are dense jungles. No line of sight is along this fire here. So maybe scoot all these guys and kick these guys' ass and then work your way back this way. Maybe, I don't know. Because when you do a turn after turn of skulking, going forward, these guys are still concealed. It's a long day in the jungle. It's a long, hot day in the jungle. So, something to consider. If whatever you're doing is not working anymore, do something different. I don't care if it costs you the game. Just do something different because you're running out of time. You're just going to run out of time. Let's see how much time Jack has here. Holy shit, we're at turn 5. So, we got to kill lots of Americans. That leaves one thing, gentlemen. What does that leave? Yeah. Banzai! And 9-2 of the machine gun, 2.558. It's Shredderino time. The shredding begins. There's just screams in the jungle, heard for miles. I think every single Japanese unit, except for this one here, was eradicated. When Dimitri rolls his snakes, oops, hold on. When Dimitri rolls the snakes, the shit is hitting the fan. Sorry about that one, Jack, but Japanese ended up just a little short, and the Americans proved to be a little bit too much. A little bit to chew up in Kawaguchi's gamble. And that's the third game of the 3-round round robin. Great matches. I think all the opponents were well pitted against one another. Everyone was making great moves. Different strategies I haven't seen before on both sides of the ball. And it's exciting to see some of these games that we've covered many times in Tactical Tuesday. You guys can review some of those tapes on those Tactical Tuesdays. And lots of stuff we've gone over here. And every single time you throw 2 different opponents across the table from one another, you're bound to see something new, something exciting. And that's why they call it ASL. Thanks for watching, guys. And now, go play some ASL.